Welcome to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. Yeah, I'm your host, Brother Michael M. Hotep. It is Wednesday, March 10th, 2021, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well today. Well, look, it's been a very, very busy day. It's been a historic day as well. We see that the U.S. House of Representatives has passed Joe Biden's $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan, the COVID relief plan. It passed the House of Representatives by a vote of 220 to 211. Not a single spineless Republican voted for the American Rescue Plan to rescue everyday Americans. It's expected that Joe Biden is going to sign the bill into law on Friday. This will be the day after he gives his first primetime presidential address. We're going to talk about this bill. We're going to talk about what's in the bill, how this bill will affect everyday Americans, how this bill especially will affect African Americans. Then also, a couple weeks ago, I talked about African American farmers, and I talked about Reverend Raphael Warnock and a part of the American Rescue Plan that would benefit African American farmers. And there's going to be $5 billion in this COVID relief bill that is going to go to African American farmers. The Griot.com has an article from April Ryan dealing with this. So we're going to talk about that as well. And then I'm going to try to squeeze in this story here dealing with Kristen Clark. Okay, Kristen Clark in the Justice Department. We know Merrick Garland was approved by the U.S. Senate today to be Attorney General. It was a vote 70 to 30 to be Attorney General. But Kristen Clark was an African-American woman. BlackAmericaWeb.com and News1.com has an article dealing with this. Opposition to Kristen Clark's Department of Justice confirmation is steeped in anti-Blackness. Opposition to Kristen Clark's Department of Justice confirmation is steeped in anti-Blackness, okay? Steeped in anti-Blackness. So Kristen Clark is poised to become the first African-American woman to lead the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. We're going to talk about this because you have a lot of white males who are attacking her, all right? Okay, so on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it corrects your own behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you haven't taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here on the African History Network show. We deal with current events in history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. To sign up for our email newsletter, text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. Sign up for our email newsletter. Also visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, to sign up for our email newsletter as well. You can still register for the online course that I teach, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. This is a 8-week, 16-hour online course that I teach on Tuesdays, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All the sessions are live. You can ask questions in class through the text chat, but all the sessions are recorded also. So as soon as you register, you can go back and watch the class we did yesterday. Also, 2 weeks ago, our guest speaker in the class was Dr. David M. Hotep, author of the book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence, okay? All right, so visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And the class is on sale, $80, regularly $130. Okay, so let's jump into this before we go to the break. Call-in number is 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. So this is a monumental uh, American Rescue Plan. This is a monumental bill that Democrats were able to get passed, and they got it passed without any Republican help. So as much as Republicans are trying to rebrand themselves as the party of working class Americans, that's a lie. As much as Republicans want to say their policies are going to help African Americans, and you should vote for Republicans, and you have these black conservative talking heads. You have these black conservative grifters. Some of them aren't even conservatives; they're just grifters, uh, attaching themselves to the coattails of Donald Trump, like a Candace Owens or James C. Harris or Bruce Lavelle or any of these other black conservatives, Pastor Darrell Scott, any of these other black conservatives who are telling us we should vote for Trump as opposed to voting for Democrats, as opposed to voting for Joe Biden. Where are they now? What are they saying now? Okay, so let's look at what's in this bill. And somebody was asking for the website. Which website are you referring to? We'll post a link here for the online course that I teach, but I'm not. Let me know which website you're referring to. Okay, so let's first look here at NBC News, NBCnews.com. Congress passed $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill with $1,400 checks in major win for Biden. Congress passes $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill with $1,400 checks in major win for Biden. And the Biden administration is going to go on a victory tour, which they should, and they're going to take this time, 2 or 3 weeks or so, to explain to everyday Americans what exactly is in the bill and how it will help them. Okay, what exactly is in the bill and how it will help them. This makes a big difference, and every step of the way, they need to make it clear that no Republicans voted for the bill, and Republicans tried to disrupt the process, like Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, who forced the aides in the Senate, the clerks in the Senate, to read the entire 628 pages, 628-page bill. Took almost 11 hours to do this. All right. So let's look at this here. So the measure will also extend jobless benefits and increase funding for vaccine distribution in schools. So the House of Representatives gave final passage Wednesday to a $1.9 trillion COVID relief package that would deliver $1,400 stimulus checks to millions of Americans, extend enhance employment benefits, and boost funding to ramp up vaccine distribution and reopen schools. Now, the vote was 220 to 211, 220 to 211 in the House of Representatives. No Republicans voted for this bill. And being that it passed the House, this sends the legislation to Joe Biden for his signature. It's expected he will sign the bill on Friday. He's been in office exactly 50 days. Now, the Senate passed the bill by a vote of 50 to 49 this past Saturday, after making changes to the original version passed by the House of Representatives, including lowering unemployment benefits and reducing the number of people who will receive stimulus checks. Now, Nancy Pelosi, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, said this is a critical moment in our country's history. She said this before the vote, mentioning the more than 500,000 people in the U.S. who have died from coronavirus and the millions more who have lost their jobs. She said, today we have a real opportunity for change. Now, the bill passed with near unanimous Democratic support. And without any Republican votes, a sharp contrast raises the political stakes of the measure. President Joe Biden said, I am immensely proud that we will soon send this bill to House Budget Committee Chair John Yarmuth Democrat from Kentucky, said, "I am immensely proud that we will send this bill to President Biden's desk to be signed into law. We have acted with the urgency that this pandemic demands." Now, the legislation will grant $1,400 direct payments to individuals making $75,000 or less, and $2,800 to married couples who make less than $1,500. Individuals making up to $80,000 and joint filers up to $160,000 get some money, but not the full amount. The direct cash includes up to $1,400 per dependent, including adult dependents. Okay, now what I want to do, I want to switch over to Washington Post. Washington Post has a good article that does a really deep dive breakdown into what's in the different parts of this bill. Also, CNBC has a good one as well. So we want to go through this step by step. Then we're going to talk about how this bill helps African American farmers. There's $5 billion in here for African American farmers. Keep in mind, politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. All right, so the reason why this bill passed, the reason why this bill is going to help the everyday Americans the way it is because African Americans and Latinos and Asian Americans and some white people went out and voted Donald Trump out of office, voted Joe Biden into office, voted for Democrats to have control of the U.S. Senate and keep control of the House of Representatives. This is why this happened. Okay, so we have to be this is an example of how elections have consequences. We have to be very clear about this. Okay, so let's look at this here. What's in Congress' $1.9 trillion COVID bill? Checks, unemployment insurance, and more. I mean, this impacts the Affordable Health Care Act. You have the child tax credit as well, which is going to reduce child poverty by almost 50%, reduce poverty overall in the U.S. by about a third. Okay, this is huge. Okay, so let's continue here. So let's look at this. Let's look at unemployment benefits. So this is the American Rescue Plan. Here's a rundown of what's in the American Rescue Plan. Unemployment benefits. The package extends the existing $300 weekly unemployment benefits through September 6th, as well as provides a tax break on $10,000 in unemployment benefits as well. Okay, so that first $10,000, you get a tax break on that first $10,000 in unemployment benefits. So people are not hit with a huge tax bill for unemployment benefits. That's part of this bill. Now, earlier proposals would have increased the weekly benefit from $300 to $400 a week in federal unemployment insurance. Now, keep in mind, it was $600. The $600 expired July 31st, 2020. But that amount was lowered to $300 from $400 after a lengthy standoff in the Senate. It was dumbass Joe Manchin from West Virginia, screwing over his own people in West Virginia. You got a lot of poor white people in West Virginia. Okay, they need to vote him out of office over that. Okay, I'm just going to be honest with you. We're coming up on the break list to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, stand by, everybody. Stand by. I got to get ready for this next segment here. How's everybody doing? Stand by. We're back from break in just a minute here. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. All right. Stand by. Stand by, everybody. Stand by. All right. We'll be back from break in 1 minute. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Wednesday, March 10th, 2021, and we are live. Also, if you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show, or at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right. So right before the break, we were talking about what's in this historic $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan that Democrats passed in the House of Representatives today. Joe Biden is going to sign it into law. No Republicans voted for this bill in the Senate or the House of Representatives, even though Republicans are trying to say that they're for the working class and everyday working Americans. Okay, I don't understand how that's possible, but okay, that's the lie you want to tell after you try to overturn the last election. After you try to overturn the election, okay, and overturn the will of the people, now you want to say you're for the everyday working American. Okay, yeah, okay, whatever. But so let's look at what's in this bill. And then next, we're going to look at how this bill will positively impact African American farmers. So unemployment benefits. The package extends existing $300 weekly unemployment benefits through September 6th. The $900 billion stimulus package passed in December 2020 provided the unemployed an extra $300 per week in benefits. That program expires mid-March. Actually expires March 14th, which was one of the reasons why there was a sense of urgency around getting this bill passed. Now, when we look at stimulus checks, the bill will send $1,400 stimulus checks, $1,400 stimulus checks on top of the $600 payments issued already in December. Roughly $400 billion of the package will go toward another round of stimulus checks. Now, Joe Biden agreed to narrow eligibility for a new round of $1,400 payments to appease moderate Democrats like Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema. Under the new structure, the checks would phase out faster for those at higher income levels compared with the formula in Biden's initial proposal and the House bill. Individuals earning $75,000 per year and couples earning $150,000 per year would still receive the full $1,400 per person. Okay, so if you make $75,000 or less, you're still getting $1,400. If couples make $150,000 or less, you're still getting $1,400. The benefit would disappear for individuals earning more than $80,000 annually and couples earning more than $160,000 annually. For example, that means singles making between $80,000 and $100,000, and couples earning between $160,000 and $200,000 would be newly excluded from seeing any benefit under the revised structure. Okay, now child tax credit, which is huge. The child tax credit is huge. Once again, this is not something supported by Republicans. And you have to look, they're screwing over, these Republicans are screwing over the people who keep voting for them, sending them back to DC to screw them over once again. So I think in this 2022 midterm election, I think it's going to be a lot of Republicans losing their seats because people are going to realize and see this is something smart that Biden is doing. They're going to take a victory lap, but they're going to spend 2 or 3 weeks explaining to the American people exactly what's in this bill, how it's going to help them, and who voted for the bill and who voted against the bill. That's smart. Because midterm elections the next year. Reverend Raphael Warnock in Georgia has to run again next year for the Senate seat he just won in the January 5th, 2021 election, because he's finishing out the last 2 terms. He's finishing out the last 2 years of this 6-year term. And we know in Georgia, as well as 42 other states, Republicans are pushing 253 bills to restrict voting access, especially in Georgia, because they know, Republicans in Georgia know, Stacey Abrams is going to run for governor in the 2022 midterm election. And they're trying to stop Stacey Abrams. Okay. The bill does help Black people as a whole. That's what we're talking about. You don't know any Black people are going to get a $1,400 stimulus check. I sure wish people read before they ask stupid ass questions. I'm sorry. Don't get mad at me. Damn. Come on. Read. Look at. Come. All right. Let's continue. Child tax credit. You don't know anybody, you don't know any Black people that are going to benefit from the child tax credit. Under the legislation, most Americans will receive $3,000 a year for each child ages 6 to 17. You don't know any Black people who have children ages 6 to 17. Under the legislation, most Americans will receive $3,000 a year for each child ages 6 to 17 and $3,600 for each child under 6. Now, the provision in the bill would last 1 year and be sent via direct deposit on a periodic basis. It is a major expansion of the existing child tax credit, which provides $2,000 a year for children from birth through age 16. Now, the more regular payments are intended to help offset costs families face day to day instead of sending families one annual payment. This is going to reduce child poverty by about 50%. So this is huge that's in the bill. Keep in mind, once again, no Republicans voted for this. I guess they don't want to help children who are impoverished or their parents. Aid to state and local governments. This is extremely important. One of the reasons why is because the unemployment insurance, the amount of money that states have had to pay out in unemployment insurance, a lot of states are being crushed by this debt. And states, unlike the federal government, based upon like state constitutions and laws in states, most states can't run a budget deficit based upon like balanced budget amendments and things like this in various states. Whereas the federal government can run a net, they can have a budget deficit. All right. So the states have been begging for a bailout, begging for help from the federal government to offset the costs that they've had to pay out in unemployment insurance. That's just one thing. Okay. There's also a lot of money in here for schools, etc. So aid to state and local governments, the package designates $350 billion for states, cities, tribal governments, and U.S. territories, $350 billion. Local government funding emerged as one of the top flashpoints in stimulus negotiations because states and cities need help. And this is something that Governor Andrew Cuomo was talking about. We know he has some troubles going on, but it's just Donald Trump had more troubles. He survived. So. But anyway, um, but Governor Cuomo, but see, at the time, Senate Majority Leader, now Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, one of the poorest states in the country, Republican state, one of the poorest states in the country. Even though they do have a Democratic governor, but McConnell was basically attacking Cuomo because Cuomo was asking for government assistance. McConnell is talking about the federal government bailing out Democratic states. Cuomo had to remind McConnell that each year Democratic states contribute more to the federal pot through tax revenue, through taxpayer dollars. They contribute more to the federal pot than the Republican states. So he asked the question. He said, "Who's bailing out who? Who is bailing out whom?" So local government funding emerged as one of the top flashpoints in stimulus negotiations. Moderate Senate Democrats have pushed to redirect some of those funds to invest in infrastructure and to expand the broadband network. High-speed broadband internet is critical. It's critical because what this coronavirus pandemic has done is expose a lot of these inequities, a lot of these structural inequities. And access to high-speed internet has a lot to do with where you live. So people living in a lot of rural areas, and 25% of African Americans live in rural America. People living in a lot of rural areas don't have access to high-speed broadband internet, which then becomes a barrier to their children who are trying to go to school at the living room table or kitchen table online. So this deals with infrastructure. Now, the next bill that they're going to push through, Democrats are going to push through, is the infrastructure bill. That's going to be $1 trillion plus. I don't know the exact ticket on that. That's going to be $1 trillion plus. They're going to use during the budget reconciliation process. They can push through 2 bills with just a simple majority, 51 votes, as opposed to needing 60 votes. Because they ain't 60. I don't think there's 60 votes in the Senate for an infrastructure bill. Because Republicans are not going to vote for that in general. But you could, if all the Democrats vote together, then the tiebreaker would be Madam Vice President, and you can get that $1 trillion plus infrastructure bill pushed through. And they've been trying to get an infrastructure bill. President Obama tried to get an infrastructure bill pushed through. It was $1 trillion infrastructure bill. It was blocked in the House of Representatives by the Tea Party Republicans. When Democrats lost control of the House of Representatives in the 2010 midterm election, and you had the rise of the Tea Party, partly funded by the Koch brothers, Charles and David Koch. Okay, when President Obama tried to push through the infrastructure bill, it got blocked by Republicans in the House of Representatives. Here, you can get the infrastructure bill passed through the budget reconciliation process in the Senate and get it passed in the House of Representatives, and you just need 218 votes, a simple majority in the House, to get that infrastructure bill passed. All right, let's continue. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a quick question or comment. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a quick question or comment. All right, so we're looking at what's in this $1.9 trillion stimulus bill and how it's going to help Americans, how it will help African Americans. All this stuff in here applies to us. Just because it doesn't say black African American doesn't mean it's going to apply to you. It doesn't say black children. But if you have children 6 to 17 years old, you're going to receive $3,000 a year. If you have children under 6, you're going to get $3,600 a year. If you say you have children 2 years old, 4 years old, and 5 years old, you're going to get $11,000. Now, it don't just say black children. Policies don't have to say black or African American to benefit you or benefit you disproportionately. And at the same time, if you like understand how many white people are in Congress and how many white people got to vote on this stuff, a lot of times it's better if it doesn't say black or African American. When you realize how many white people got to vote for this stuff, if you actually want to get it passed, it reduces opposition. There's like, you remember a couple of weeks ago, I asked the question why the most slaves who ran away at nighttime, not in the daytime, because they knew they had a better chance of actually, surviving, of actually running away successfully. Sometimes it's better to whisper than yell. The provision in the bill would last 1 year and be sent via direct deposit on a periodic basis. It is a major expansion of the existing child tax credit, which provides $2,000 a year for children from birth through age 16. Now, the more regular payments are intended to help offset costs families face day to day instead of sending families one annual payment. That monthly payment is better than one lump sum payment. I think, that's better than one lump sum payment. Don't just send all that money one lump sum payment. No, don't do that. Okay. Aid to state and local governments. The package designates $350 billion for states, cities, tribal, and U.S. territories. Local government funding emerged as one of the top flashpoints in the stimulus negotiations. Facing deep shortfalls, state and local governments have shed 1.3 million jobs since the pandemic began last year. This is huge. Facing deep budget shortfalls, state and local governments have had to cut back. They've had to lay people off. They've had to shed 1.3 million jobs since the pandemic began in 2020, a loss of more than 1 in 20 government jobs, according to a Washington Post analysis of government data. While tax revenue grew in some states last year, the majority, at least 26 states, were hit with declines. Okay, now, pandemic response. Tens of billions of dollars will fund coronavirus testing and contact tracing, which is also extremely important, especially contact tracing, to try to minimize the spread and minimize outbreaks, increase the size of the public health workforce, and funding vaccine distribution and supply chains. In addition to just having vaccinations, you got to have able-bodied people to administer the vaccinations. That costs money as well. This week, President Joe Biden said there will be enough coronavirus vaccine doses for every adult in America by the end of May, a 2-month acceleration of his previous projection of July. Okay, we have clip number 1, ready, Shakita. Clip number 1. We're gonna go to clip 1. That is from clip 1 is from MSNBC. House passes $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill. Let's go to this clip. Oh Lord.
Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. So there you have it. Nancy Pelosi has gavelled down. The motion has passed. Andy, hold on 1 second. I just want to go to Garrett Haig, who's watching this alongside us on Capitol Hill. Garrett, talk to me about this moment. I heard a lot of cheers.
Yeah, uproarious applause for House Democrats here. And really, for the House Democrats, so much of this bill was built on the HEROES Act, which was the bill that they were really trying to push through to have been the most recent round of COVID relief that ended up being the smaller bill that was negotiated and passed and signed under former President Trump. So this bill, with the state and local aid provisions, with so much of the items that Democrats, particularly in the House, believed were so important that they could not get through a Republican-controlled president or Senate and signed by a Republican president, now finally getting through. So I think even more emotion you see from Democratic House lawmakers who've been fighting for really so much of this specific piece of legislation, so much more emotion there than what we saw on the Senate side. For the House, this was a moment a long time coming, and you heard that in the cheers on the floor.
Okay, that was the end of the clip. All right. I thought it was more of it. Okay. So that's from MSNBC, Katie Tur, and that's dealing with the passing of the $1.9 trillion bill. I want to go to comments from President Joe Biden. COVID relief bill, historic victory for Americans. Let's go to the second clip. It was a clip in the second email I sent. Okay, let me know when you have it queued up. So let's go back to the Washington Post. Just a second, let me flip back over here. When you have that second clip queued up, just press play and take it off of mute. Housing assistance. Housing assistance is huge also. It's part of this $1.9 trillion American Rescue Bill, American Rescue Plan. The bill sets aside $20 billion in emergency rental assistance and other relief for the homeless, because you've had people who've been evicted. There's going to be a lot of people when the moratoriums on evictions run out. There's going to be a massive number of people who are going to be facing eviction who are going to need rental assistance. Okay, this is huge. Another $10 billion goes to mortgage and home ownership assistance. All right. Okay, do we have the clip queued up? Let's go ahead and press play. It was the second email I sent. Said Joe Biden. School support. School support is critical. The bill sets aside $130 billion to help K through 12 schools reopen. You can't just open up the schools. You can't just wish them open. You have to have a plan. It's going to take funding. $130 billion to help K through 12 schools reopen. That money would go to improving ventilation systems. Okay. All right, let's go to this clip here. This is Joe Biden talking about the passing of the bill.
Today for passing the bill, and I will be signing into law shortly. This bill represents a historic victory for the American people. I look forward to signing it later this week. Everything in the American Rescue Plan addresses a real need, including investments to fund our entire vaccination effort. More vaccines, more vaccinators, and more vaccination sites. Millions more Americans will get tested, including home testing. Schools will soon have the funding and resources to reopen safely, a national imperative. The American Rescue Plan, the partnership between Johnson & Johnson and Merck, proves we can do big things, important things in this country. Now, let me conclude with this. Tomorrow night, I'm going in primetime address the American people and talk about what we've been through as a nation this past year. But more importantly, I'm going to talk about what comes next. I'm going to launch the next phase of the COVID response and explain what we will do as a government and what we will ask of the American people. There is light at the end of this dark tunnel of the past year. We cannot let our guard down now.
I want to ask you about what is happening in this.
Okay, just pause right there. All right. So primetime address is going to be on Thursday, March 11th. as well. He'll sign the bill into law Friday, March 12th. And no help from Republicans, even though there are a few Republicans trying to take credit for the bill. I guess they realize it's a big mistake they didn't vote for it, but that's not going to work because they're going to be reminded, well, hold on, wait a second. You trying to take credit for a bill that you voted against? How are you trying to do that? You don't want your constituents to find out you voted against their best interests? And you have to run for re-election next year, especially if you're in the House. So school support. The bill sets aside $130 billion to help K through 12 schools reopen. Improving that money would go to improving ventilation systems, which a lot of inner city schools need desperately. Reducing class sizes, which a lot of inner city schools need desperately, especially public schools. Buying personal protective equipment and implementing social distancing. Now, colleges and other higher education institutions will receive almost $40 billion. Almost $40 billion for colleges and other higher education institutions. That money could help support financial aid grants to prevent hunger, homelessness, or other challenges for students during the pandemic. Now, additional funds would go to child care providers through the Child Care and Development Block Grant Program. All right. So if you got African Americans that own child care services, they can tap into some of this money, potentially. The bill also sets aside $1 billion for the Head Start program, which provides early childhood education, health and nutrition services to low-income children and families. Now, aid for multi-employer pension plans, pension plans. The bill includes an $86 billion bailout for failing pensions. Democrats say the provisions gives struggling pension plans enough money to pay hundreds of thousands of retirees their full pensions for the next decades. That's going to help a lot of African Americans that have pensions. I'm telling you right now, that's going to help a lot of African Americans who have pensions. But the bailout has been criticized for having little to do with the current health crisis, especially since many pension plans were on the verge of collapse well before the pandemic hit. They put that in there because they know they could get it passed. That's smart. That's what Republicans do. They put stuff in bills, in a larger bill, 600 page plus bill, because they know they can get it passed. That's smart. New provisions. The bill provides $510 million for the FEMA Emergency Food and Shelter Program. That money would support homeless services providers for overnight shelters. Overnight shelter, meals, 1 month's rent and mortgage assistance, and 1 month's utility payments. It expands the employee retention tax credit, for startup companies and other businesses hit by the pandemic. Okay, that's going to help some African American owned businesses. The bill also increases the value of the federal COBRA health insurance program from 85% to 100%. So COBRA, if you have health insurance and you leave your job, you can keep health insurance for 18 months. It's called COBRA, but usually the premiums are so high. What this does is reduces the premiums each month that you have to pay to make it more affordable to keep health insurance during a pandemic. The bill adds a $10 billion infrastructure program to help local governments continue crucial capital projects. The American Rescue Plan makes all coronavirus-related student loans relief tax-free. Okay, that's going to help a lot of African Americans that have student loans. The bill increases the total amount of Amtrak relief funding by $200 million. Amtrak trains, okay, all aboard Amtrak. For education funding, the bill sets aside $1.25 billion for summer enrichment, $1.25 billion for after-school programs, and $3 billion for education technology. The Senate bill also adds $8.5 billion in funds for the Provider Relief Program to assist rural healthcare providers. Rural America, 25% of African Americans live in rural America. Okay. Now, not in the bill. We know that they couldn't get the $15 an hour increase in federal minimum wage in the bill. They're going to try to do that separately. Now, one thing they may want to look at doing is stick that in the infrastructure bill, because during this 117th Congress, you're going to need 60 votes. You're going to need, well, that's if the parliamentarian will allow them to do that. The parliamentarian don't allow them to do that. Personally, I say they should fire that parliamentarian, the Senate parliamentarian. But if you can stick it into the infrastructure bill, you only need 51 votes, because you're only allowed 2 bills during the budget reconciliation process where you need 51 votes as opposed to 60 votes to get the bill passed. So if they can slide the $15 an hour increase in federal minimum wage into the federal infrastructure bill, they may be able to do it that way. Otherwise, they're going to need 60 votes. They're not 60 votes in the Senate. Unless you really pressure, you're going to have to get corporations. You're going to have to leverage corporations to come out in support of raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour and put pressure on some vulnerable Republicans who corporations support, to get it through this 117th Congress. Okay. They talked about that on Roland Martin Unfiltered today as well. Roland spoke with president of AFSCME, the union, and I should be on Roland Martin Unfiltered this Friday. I'm a panelist on each Friday on Roland Martin Unfiltered, so look out for that. All right, let's continue here. Okay, so read the rest of this. This is from the Washington Post. What's in Congress's $1.9 trillion COVID bill? Checks, unemployment insurance, and more. Okay, very quickly here before we lose 9:10 a.m. Superstation WFDF. I want to. There's a portion of the bill. It talks about. It deals with African American farmers. Now, I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Okay, and April Ryan for thegrio.com has a good article dealing with this. And this was something that Reverend Raphael Warnock was pushing. And we know African American farmers are need a lot of help. Okay, so there was this article here. Let's pull this up. Black farmers to receive $5 billion in COVID relief bill, 400 years past due. It's an article written by April Ryan for thegrio.com. Let's go to this here. Okay, let's flip over. And I've talked about the plight of African American farmers here the past few weeks and what type of help they need. Let's look at this here. Okay, so this was an interview with John Boyd, head of the National Farmers Association. And John Boyd said billions are needed to revive the industry. We'll look at this very quickly here. So President Biden's allocation of $5 billion in the American Rescue Plan has Republican Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina upset. Little spineless Lindsey Graham, Donald Trump's golf buddy, little spineless Lindsey Graham. The more accurate term for his anger is that he is having a temper tantrum about the sum of money earmarked for Black farmers to help them survive. Now, over $10.4 billion is earmarked for the nation's farmers, and half of that is going to African American farmers. John Boyd, head of the National Black Farmers Association, says those billions are needed to help sustain and revive a dying industry. Now, John Boyd acknowledges, quote, we're quite frankly faced with extinction if we can't get a new generation of young people involved in agriculture and farming. Blacks and other farmers of color into farming, you won't see it. Now, counting the number of black farmers in this nation currently, he says 46,000 black farmers are left in this country, according to the U.S. Census. 46,000 black farmers are left in the U.S. according to the census. We're down from 1 million farm families at the turn of the century. Okay, and we were killing 20 million acres of land. We're down to about 4.5 million acres of land. All right. Okay. So African Americans used to own about close to 20 million acres of land. Now we own about 4.5 million acres of land. Now, Senator Lindsey Graham is vocal about his displeasure for the earmark, calling it reparations for black farmers. John Hope Bryant, that what black farmers were discriminated against by the federal government when it came to loans. This goes back to the Great Depression. Why are you complaining, little spineless ass Lindsey Graham? What? So John Hope Bryant is the founder and head of Operation Hope. He said this is a long time in coming and over 400 years past due. You can't compare it to white farmers. I wouldn't say 400 years past due. You exaggerating a little bit. But anyway, this goes back to the 1930s and African American farmers being discriminated when it came to loans that were given to white farmers during the Depression from the Farmers Home Administration. Okay, this goes back to that. You can't compare it to white farmers because black farmers were the only ones enslaved. This is not just about COVID, but it is the right thing to do. Okay, black farmers had the share of financial ruin and devastation at the hands of the U.S. government during the 1990s. Black farmers filed a lawsuit against the United States Department of Agriculture for discrimination in the loan program. Then President Bill Clinton authorized the payment for the discriminatory practices for the black farmers. Okay. All right. Look, we're out of time here on 910 AM Superstation Future Radio. Those watching on Facebook and YouTube, keep watching. We'll keep broadcasting for a couple more minutes. Right now, it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. Stay tuned for Pastor Greg Davis. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Peace. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so the full restitution was not paid until the Obama presidency. There was 1.3 billion paid out under President Obama. Black Enterprise has an article dealing with this, but it started under Bill Clinton. Okay, there was an article from blackenterprise.com. There's an article from blackenterprise.com that deals with the settlement here. Let's see here if we can pull this up from Black Enterprise. There's also an article from Washington Post dealing with the $5 billion in here for black farmers. Let's see if we can pull this up from Black Enterprise. This is from 2013. I don't know how many people know about this. Let's see here. Okay, this is from 2013, October 2nd, 2013. Black farmers to receive payouts in $1.2 billion federal lawsuit. Okay, this is under President Barack Obama. Black farmers to receive payouts in $1.2 billion to receive payouts in $1.2 billion from a federal lawsuit. Okay, after years of protests and lawsuits, black farmers in the South will begin receiving payments this week as a result of a $1.2 billion settlement in a discrimination case against federal agricultural officials. About 18,000 farmers in total are expected to receive checks over the next few days, according to reports from the Clarion Ledger in Jackson, Mississippi. This is the second round of funding for Black farmers. Thousands received payments in 1999 as part of a settlement in a class action lawsuit over allegations of widespread discrimination by federal officials who denied loans and other assistance to Black farmers because of their race. Okay, read the rest of this article here. This is from October 2nd, 2013, blackenterprise.com. Now, there was also, there's one from Washington Post dealing with the money in the American Rescue Plan and $5 billion for African American farmers. Relief bill is most significant legislation for Black farmers since Civil Rights Act, experts say. $5 billion would go to farmers of color who have lost 90% of their land over the past century because of systemic discrimination and a cycle of debt. Because of systemic discrimination and a cycle of debt. All right, now this is from Washington Post. This is from March 8th, 2021. So check out this article also. And once again, this is an example of how elections have consequences, and politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. Politics impacts every aspect of our lives, from the water we drink to the air we breathe to the food we eat. Okay, pull this up here. A little known element of President Biden's massive stimulus relief package would pay billions of dollars to disadvantaged farmers, benefiting Black farmers in a way that some experts say no legislation has since the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Of the $10.4 billion in the American Rescue Plan that will support agriculture, approximately half would go to disadvantaged farmers, according to estimates from the Farm Bureau and industry organization. About a quarter of disadvantaged farmers are Black. The money would provide debt relief as well as grants, training. The money will provide debt relief as well as grants, training, education, and other forms of assistance aimed at acquiring land. While it's a fraction of the $1.9 trillion that passed in the Senate on Saturday, advocates say it still represents a step toward righting a wrong after a century of mistreatment of Black farmers by the government and others. Okay, it still represents a step toward righting a wrong after a century of mistreatment of Black farmers by the government and others. Some say it is a form of reparations for African Americans who have suffered a long history of racial oppression. No, it's not reparations for African Americans. This applies to African American farmers, and there's only about 46,000 African American farmers. You can't say that there's 49 million African Americans. You can't say this going to less than 1% of African Americans is somehow reparations. No, those are people that want to discredit it or say, okay, look, we already gave you reparations here, so we're not going to give it to you over here. That's the shell game that they're trying to run. Okay, read the rest of this article from Washington Post. Relief bill is most significant legislation for Black farmers since Civil Rights Act, experts say. Okay, let's continue. We're going to flip back over to the one from the Griot. Okay. Just a second here. All right. So there was the lawsuit filed during the 1990s. Black farmers filed a lawsuit against the United States Department of Agriculture for discrimination in the loan program. Then President Bill Clinton authorized the payment for the discriminatory practices for the black farmers. However, the full restitution was not paid until the Obama presidency. Now, the ARP legislation, the American Rescue Plan legislation, provides another $1 billion fund to support the USDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, to end systemic racism when it comes to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, provide technical and legal assistance to agricultural communities of color, and fund under-resourced programs that will shape the future for farmers and communities of color. Okay, this is huge. USDA's senior advisor of racial equity, Dwayne Goldman, says the money targeted for the USDA is meaningful debt relief for farmers that have been long underserved. According to Dwayne Goldman, it serves as an attempt to achieve equity. It serves as an attempt to achieve equity. The American Rescue Plan language on how debt relief will be enacted by the U.S. Department of Agriculture for black farmers is still being worked on. However, Dwayne Goldman, an Arkansas farmer himself, reveals from a farmer's perspective, quote, farming is a very capital intensive profession. Farming is a very capital intensive profession. Most farmers impacted by the American Rescue Plan will have access to 3 or 4 different types of loans from the USDA. This plan focuses on farmers who have operating loans, equipment loans, and farm ownership loans. Okay. Now, Goldman believes he believes if this is done correctly, it should make black farmers sustainable producers. If this is done correctly, it should make black farmers sustainable producers. Now, the $1 billion fund for the U.S. Department of Agriculture would include grants and loans to improve land access and address heirs property issues. We'll talk about heirs property. We'll talk about heirs property on tomorrow's show. Heirs property, that law is one of the main ways our land was stolen away from us. Heirs property. I've talked about heirs property before when I dealt with the soybean farmers, African-American soybean farmers that sued the Stein Seed Company and said they were sold fake soybeans that did not yield the proper amount of bushels of soybeans. And they felt that this was an attempt to steal their land because that's historic. And I talked about heirs property and the overtaxation by tax assessors. Those are some of the main ways that historically our land was stolen from us outside of outright domestic terrorism. Okay, we were attacked through the laws as well. Heirs property and overtaxation of your property, and then you can't pay your property taxes, and then you're foreclosed on. So let's continue. Let's wrap up with this here because I have to go. Support for grants and loans to improve land access and address heirs property issues. Support for one or more legal centers focused on agricultural legal issues of farmers of color. Pilot projects that focus on land acquisition, financial planning, technical assistance, and credit. A racial equity commission and related activities to address systemic racism across the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Support for research, education, and extension at historically black colleges and universities and other institutions of higher education that historically serve communities of color. Scholarships at 1890s land grant universities and for indigenous students attending land grant institutions. Outreach, mediation, financial training, capacity building training, cooperative development training and support and other technical assistance, and assistance to farmers, ranchers, or forest landowners of color that are former farm loan borrowers and suffered related adverse actions or past discrimination or bias. This is huge right here. Okay, now we talked about this a couple of weeks ago because Reverend Raphael Warnock was sponsoring the bill to address the plight of African American farmers. Okay, so check this out here. Great article by April Ryan. She has the interview in here with John Wesley Boyd Jr., president of the National Black Farmers Association. Watch that interview as well. Black farmers to receive $5 billion in COVID relief bill, $400 past due. Great reporting by our girl April Ryan, our sister April Ryan. This black girl mad right there. Okay, here's the link to the article. Check that out. You can still register for the online course that I teach, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understand the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Next class will be Tuesday, March 16th. Tuesday, March 16th. We do the classes live. They're also all recorded. You can go back and watch them over and over again. So as soon as you register, you can watch the class we did yesterday. And you can also watch the class from a couple of weeks ago when our guest speaker was Dr. David M. Hotep, author of the book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. Okay, author of this book right here, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. He was our guest speaker, and the week before that, our guest speaker was Sister Nubia Watford, who is a cultural anthropologist, and we dealt with the kingdoms of ancient Kush, as well as the African queens of antiquity. Okay, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, and then also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show, or at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We're here 6 days a week, Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time, and Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this helps us to keep broadcasting 6 days a week, keep doing the research, stay on the air, pay some of the bills. We broadcast the first hour of the show Monday through Friday on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF here in Detroit. I'm a radio talk show host here in Detroit. And then we keep going on the social media platforms for a little while longer. And then Sundays, we're on 2 hours on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation as well. The shows are in audio podcast format. Wherever you get your audio podcast from, search for the African History Network Show, the African History Network Show. You can download the iHeartRadio app, search for the African History Network Show. They have about 300 or 400 of my podcasts there. Or go to our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Right on the homepage, click on Listen to Podcasts and click there. And it takes you to our Blog Talk Radio page where we have over 1,000 audio podcasts. The Michael M. Hotep 15 DVD bundle pack, Black History Month DVD bundle pack is still available right now. Includes 15 of my lectures, all different topics, including 3 of them dealing with the film Black Panther. Okay, so that's available right now at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have those shipping out this week. It is that bundle pack is on sale, $100. It's 15 of my lectures. So when you scroll down, you'll see information about the radio show. When you go to our website, on the homepage, you'll see information about the radio show. Click here to listen to podcasts. Click here to read articles that I've written. This is information about the online class. Click right here to register for the online class. Okay, and then it takes you to the next page, 16-hour online class. Click here to enroll. As soon as you register for the class, you can start watching the content, and we have bonus content also. When you scroll down below that, I was a guest panelist for Black History Month, Wednesday, February 24th for Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, the Lambda Rho Zeta chapter. Those are my sisters. I'm a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Then right here, we have the Michael M. Hotep Black History Month 15 DVD bundle pack. If you click right here, order here, it shows all the titles in that 15 DVD bundle pack. We also have that in digital download format as well. Okay, click right here to add it to cart. You can order that and you will be all set. All right, look, we got to get out of here. Remember, right now it's correct. Wrong behavior is not over till we win Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Peace. Thanks for tuning in.